He's the mayor-elect, sort of.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
Yeah, we have an election day coming up on November 8th, and that will validate, ratify, formalize, make official that Brett Smiley is the new mayor of Providence, because there ain't nobody there, right? The Democratic primaries, we told you early and often on both TV and radio, was the determining factor as to who was going to lead the city for the next 4 years. And he won, and he's here. So here's a headline that reminds you of what happened, but we're not going to spend a lot of time on preliminaries. And you know, it's one of those days where I have so much to say about so many things that if I did, I would never be able to have any time for my guest. So maybe he'll fill the blanks in on some of the concerns that I have. But Brett Smiley wins. Congratulations.
Thanks, Dan.
Man, you've had an interesting run, in terms of your career and the way this whole thing is navigated. And I saw you. We're recording this on Thursday afternoon, as we always do. Friday night on Fox and Sunday night on Channel 12 is your viewing time. But I saw you yesterday, which would be Wednesday for me, at the McKee mayoral support press conference. I was speaking to somebody in the back watching it, and I turned to that person and said, "Man, that Smiley's got his act together right now." And the person next to me said, "Yeah." Boom. Your growing gravitas is showing. You've had a lot of experience in this whole thing, and I guess winning provides a real sense of what? Relief? Relaxation? Tell me.
Yeah. I think relief is certainly one of the words, and it's an extraordinarily stressful process.
Yeah.
And as you know, you kind of previewed there, I've been working really hard for a really long time to get this job.
Yeah.
You know, of course, I ran 8 years ago. That didn't work out the way I had planned, but then it opened other doors, had a chance to serve in some really interesting, challenging jobs over the last 8 years. And so in some ways, sometimes tongue-in-cheek, I say I've been running for mayor for 8 years, certainly campaigning full-time for the last year and a half. And so it's really gratifying to have all that hard work pay off in the thing that I've been working towards.
As Chief of Staff for the Governor, Governor Raimondo, Director of Administration, in all of that, you never suggested that you were not interested in running again and achieving the position of Mayor of Providence. Correct?
That's right. And also, this is the only job I ever thought about running for. You know, there's other people who kind of look for an opportunity in something because they want to run. I want to be the mayor of Providence. I've always wanted to be the mayor of Providence, and so that's the only job I ever thought about putting my name on the ballot
Always
for.
goes back to how far?
So when I moved to Rhode Island in 2006, I was running Charlie Fogarty's campaign that year, and then in 2007 I started working for David Cicilline when he was mayor. And over the last 15 years have become totally committed to and a true believer in the ability at local government to really make a difference. I think there's plenty of reasons to be cynical about national politics. There's plenty of reasons to feel like Washington doesn't really, no matter who's in charge, not a whole lot changes. But at the local level, we still solve problems, help people, can actually make a difference. And so that's when I've kind of every day got more and more committed to this is the place to be.
Other than in modern times, David Cicilline moving to Congress from that job, though, it could be a dead stop.
It's all right.
Could be a career lifer. I mean, you got 2 terms.
We have term limits
Yeah,
now.
term limits.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, another 8 years, and it's a silly conversation. I mean, there's a lot of work to be done over 1 or 2 years for a term. You know, back 8 years ago, there was some deal making, shifting, things going, you know, happening that allowed Mayor Elorza to win that race over the, God rest his soul, then former Mayor Buddy Cianci. Does it seem like yesterday or a long time ago?
Seems like a long time ago.
It does?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why?
I don't know. I mean, there's just been so much that's happened since then. Global pandemic, you know, a couple governors now, and a tremendous amount of work. And so it just feels like a lifetime ago.
The campaign was boring.
You know, we heard that. I heard that from the media. I heard it from commentators, and Listen, I ran a campaign about getting back to the basics. I ran a campaign about improving city services. I've said before that one of my kind of mayoral role models was Tom Menino, who called himself an urban mechanic. I'm not sure how sexy that is. It's not fireworks and CNC showmanship. But I believe it's actually what the city needs, and from thousands of conversations with residents, it's, I think, what the city wants.
Yeah, I think, listen, I've always found you to be a pretty serious guy. Yeah, would you agree?
Yeah.
You're a pretty serious guy.
I don't take technocrat as an insult.
Yeah, right. And actually, it was the campaign commercials 8 years ago that kind of poked fun at yourself.
Yeah.
This one, throwing the garbage in the can and all that kind of a thing. I didn't, you know, my critique, I don't often jump into the media cliche mode of calling an election boring. I try to pick apart why someone is comporting themselves the way they are. And I said when I saw your ad that it was, but I understood what you were doing. You were in the lead, if you looked at the polls. Potholes and garbage pickup and function are the major things that people want to see from there. I get that. But I kind of felt like your competitors almost had an agreement that making this thing compelling was off the table until the very end. Didn't you feel like it was almost as if you guys all got together and they're all going to get jobs and everything, we're just going to run this thing out and it's all going to be fine. Was there any discussion amongst the competitors about what they may or may not do within your administration? Was there a temperament discussion or tacit agreement about how to run the whole thing?
Not with me. Whether the two of them were in discussions, it would be unknown to me. You know, we all knew each other, and certainly Gonzalo and I have known each other for a long time. Councilwoman LaFortune less time, but I think the other thing that might have been boring, that's maybe a part of this, is there were so many forums. I think there were like 20 forums over the last 2 years. And
in the community.
That's right. You know, neighborhood forums and different groups and such.
Different kind of race than a statewide race.
Exactly. And I was happy to do it because every time it was a different 10 to 20, 30, 40, 50 people in the audience. And on many issues, we all sounded pretty similar. I mean, we were all, you know, it's a Democratic primary, so you get a little of that to begin with. But it's a reflection of what the community's asking for. And so I thought what it came down to at the end of the day was experience, because on the policies we were pretty similar, and then priorities, which is, you know, we can have positions on 50 things, but you're not going to be able to do 50 things, right? You can only focus on a couple things. And so I tried to be clear at the outset. Whatever might have happened with the other two, I'm not quite sure. But they were all, you know, all three of us were running for the right reasons, honest, ethical people, in it for the right reason, and I'm happy that it was largely, you know, kind of very civilized and above board campaign.
Yeah,
I think that takes the temperature down a little bit.
I think in a lot of ways, if you really examine yourself, meaning me, in asking about this, there's some relief that comes along with actually trying to bang out the issues. Working for Jeanner, what was your biggest learn coming from it?
A couple. First, and I'm thinking about this a lot right now, mid-transition, was she was relentlessly focused on attracting talent to state government and then holding on to them. It's not just who the executive is, it's who his or her team is. And getting people to take some of these senior level positions in government is actually not an easy sell. In most cases, these folks can make more money in the private sector. There's a level of public scrutiny and kind of work hours and everything else that you're just not subjected to in other walks of life. And so convincing good people to help run departments and agencies is critically important. And she was always very focused on that.
Does that lend a thought to the controversy that Governor McKee has right now in the campaign, such that the General Assembly, you know, put a timetable on the administration to provide a new salary scale for the bureaucrats, if you will, the directors and secretaries, the cabinet that works for him, and you know, he's looking at some significant increases, if not immediately, over a course of time. I totally support it.
Yeah.
There's a public official, a superintendent of schools in Springfield, Massachusetts, who came in from the Bronx, New York one day, and he was very highly paid, and everybody was very upset about it. And he said, listen, you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. And I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that. The public will always say, "Rah!" But the public also wants the services that those people provide.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, so I think it's both sides of that same coin, which is one, yes, you have to pay people competitively to attract people, and two,
Compared to the public, the
private sector. And then also similarly, and this is part of the burden of being in public service, someone in the private sector gets a raise, it's not front page news. Someone in the public sector gets a raise, and it's oversight hearings and 5 days of news and controversy, and that's a deterrent for people to want to take these jobs.
And by the way, the Providence Journal seems to have a complete OCD problem with this. Everybody who's ever referred to in government stories is tagged with their salary.
Yeah, Dan Yorke, comma, salary, comma.
Right, that's
right.
crazy. All right, so that's an easy takeaway. There are a couple of issues that this mayor is going to have to focus on when we come back. We'll talk about it. Stay with us. There you are on election night, and again, the primary was the big deal, and you go through the motions on election night, and Brett Smiley will be the new mayor. Look, the schools thing is really interesting. During the campaign, you were clear that you want the 5-year program here for the state to take over to run its course. Maybe that's the wrong term. To have a chance, right? Because COVID blew everything up.
That's right.
So let me ask, with the difference between you and Mayor Lorza, Mayor Lorza had a contentious relationship with RIDE, which I think has exacerbated the separation, so to speak, of church and state, in this particular case, city and state, in running the schools. You come in with a little bit more, obviously you have a hand in it because you're the former Chief of Staff, Director of Administration for Governor Raimondo, who initiated the separation. So you've got a very unique view on all of this. Is this a different non-city role with an almost contributing partner to the process and the decision? You know what I'm asking?
I do, and I hope so.
I may not have asked it well, but
Yeah.
Are you a more engaged mayor in the process of running the schools, even though formally the city's out?
Right. So, and I don't want to actually say that the current mayor was disengaged, but his engagement was, more, making demands from the sideline. I hope that my engagement is seating at the table next to the commissioner and the governor.
Do you expect that?
I hope for it.
Have you talked to them about it?
I have. And I have every indication that that's going to be a seat made available to me.
Formally or informally?
Probably informally. We haven't defined those roles yet. But everyone expects, the governor, the commissioner, and the city expects that the schools are coming back.
But does that mean, all right, we're going to, this initiative, that initiative, let's check with Mayor Smiley and see how he feels about that. Thanks for your thought, Mayor. It may or may not be in sync with where we are. Or let's check with Mayor Smiley. He doesn't like it. Let's check it off. Or let's check with Mayor Smiley. He gets a vote. Gets a vote would change some of the statutory issue, right?
I think that's a question for the governor. And as you pointed out earlier, I hope that's Governor McKee. I expect that's going to be Governor McKee.
Even though the statutes are guiding this, we're kind of in an entrepreneurial place, aren't we?
If the governor chose to take one of those first couple of options where they're happy to take my opinion but they don't have to give me a vote, that is that's his discretion. It is my hope, and I at this point would say expectation, that I am a full partner in those decisions going forward.
And so what do you do with the governing body? So the school committee kind of goes through the motions through all of this. Are you going to lobby for some kind of more formal official bridge for them to engage as well?
So over the next 2-3 years of what's left in this initial term, the school board is advisory. We need to be preparing today for what happens when the schools are handed back, and I think that's when the school board, we get ready today for that moment, and it's going to take a couple years to get ready for this, and so it's not that much time. And the school board becomes that. What's important is when they come back, we had this problem. Part of the reason, part of the rationale that you're right, I was there for of the takeover was we had the mayor's office, the city council, the school board, and there was all this overlapping bureaucratic process put in place, and we would hear famous stories about the superintendent asking for a requisition to order supplies in September that got approved in April. And that was like a simple example, writ large, was cause of some of the dysfunction. So we have to make sure we just don't go back to doing what we used to do. We get back to a new third state is how we come out of this. Not what was before, not what's today, but this new third state that actually makes it easier to govern our schools, easier to support our principals and administrators and teachers to actually deliver for students.
Big pension debt. Bond gets approved, not yet triggered. What do you do?
Well, so first of all, thank goodness for the repackaged proposal and the General Assembly for putting in what they called these guardrails, because God forbid we had actually borrowed this money a year and a half ago. And the stock market did what it did, and pension and interest rates are where they are, we'd be in worse shape. So those guardrails were really responsible, and I'm glad they put them in.
Because of that, if with that tool still available, do you think it's really the tool to use?
Well, so it's a 5-year authorization. I think it's entirely possible that rates come back down again in 5 years. But I've been clear that I think the bond alone is not a solution. We're just transferring the obligation from retirees to bondholders. I have consistently wanted to explore putting the city in the state system, MERS, for a variety of reasons. I could not do this unilaterally. We'll be speaking with our union leaders and their members, the General Assembly, and the State Investment Commission to explore how to do that. But we would save transaction costs. We would eliminate one more fee that we pay to an advisor, to a banker, to a lawyer to get the same advice.
That's your benefit. The guy living in North Kingstown says, I don't want your burden.
Regrettably for the person in North Kingstown is if the Providence pension system goes belly up, the state's going to bail us out one way or the other.
Why do people in this state not get, as Providence goes, so goes Rhode Island?
Exactly.
Why?
And so
Why? I've never expected more than 2 decades ago when I got here, and even to this day, in a place 40 miles wide and 50 miles long, the level of provinciality, that it's unbelievable.
People are concerned about their tax bill, their schools. I get that. But this is, help us bring the ship safely to shore as opposed to sending the Coast Guard for a ship that's already underwater.
Right.
So I think...
You go broker, everybody goes broker.
That's right. And it doesn't have to come at a way... It's going to increase a little bit of risk, but we can do it responsibly to make sure that it's not actually burdening other communities in their pocketbooks. It just is the system is going to have to slowly absorb us, I believe, in a way that stabilizes everybody.
All right. When we come back, we'll talk about what the cityscape literally will look like. Stay with us. All right. So the Superman building deal, for all intents and purposes, is structured and full green lighted?
Passed out of the Finance Committee meeting last week. It needs 2 passages in the City Council in the weeks to come.
You bullish on it?
Yes.
Because?
I think the first passage helped. I think the developer knows that he could not have asked for more from the city or the state. This is his deal. This is his chance to go do the work now. And I'm confident that it's going to be under construction soon.
Listen, I got a mid-upper 20s kid who's still trying to figure out whether to rent or buy.
Yeah.
It's a weird, tough, expensive place to be out there. When these rents were published, the Superman building rents, my eyes almost fell out of my head. Now, I know it's 20% lower income or moderate income housing,
right.
But even those numbers are extraordinary. Claims that this is a gentrification project. I think all the jobs, check, makes sense. Having like a bad tooth in your mouth is what I see the Superman building to be on the landscape right now, dark,
right.
Check. But in terms of it being a community housing option, it seems to me that you've got to be a heck of a, is the old-fashioned term, yuppie, in order to be able to afford this kind of a place. So it doesn't really check that box, does it?
We have such a shortage of housing that we need apartments and home ownership opportunities at every price point.
Yeah, but this is really expensive, this place.
Sure. And guess what? The other really expensive apartments in Providence might become a little bit less expensive because this becomes the shiny new thing. There is such a shortage of supply that we need more supply in the mix period.
That's an interesting economic theory. I'm not sure that that's going to happen. Fane Tower?
Because these proposals were market rents. This is a proposed market rent for 2 or 3 years from now. That doesn't mean that's what the price is. It's going to be whatever the market can bear.
Gotcha.
And
So
a project of this scale is going to make a dent on the market. 300 apartments. That's real numbers in Providence and in Rhode Island.
People trying to follow the play-by-play of this Fane Tower thing.
Yeah.
Where's that going?
I don't know. The developer has all of the approvals he needs. He's got all of the approvals, all of the tax agreements. He went through a court battle. He prevailed. We're waiting for him to put a shovel in the ground. What I'm concerned about, my primary focus at this point, because he has his approvals, when he gets ready to put that shovel in the ground is to make sure that he's got his financing in line, that he's got his bonding in line. The actual worst case scenario is that we get a half-built building and he throws us the keys. And the public has to either finish it or knock it down. So were he to get ready to start, I want to make sure that he's ready to finish. And then he's got to start building.
I only got a minute. Community policing or the police department, blah, blah, blah. You know, I've always been pretty bullish on the chief and even the public safety director. I think they're good men and they've done a pretty adequate job. Staying with them?
Haven't made any staffing announcements yet, though I have similarly heaped praise on Chief Clements, the job that he's done, and generally the integrity and professionalism of the department.
Okay, so I didn't hear you say Stephen Perry's good.
Stephen Perry actually did a lot of good work over the last 12 years. That's a hard job, and I'm not sure what his future is.
Do you need that position?
It's an interesting question. We, in the city's history, have not had it for extended periods of time, and so that's a question that we're looking at.
You seem excited.
I'm so excited.
I mean, when I say seem excited, it's not like you're jumping out of your skin right here, but I can tell you
this
seem
is
excited.
me excited, right?
It's
right.
I got 15 seconds.
Yeah.
What's your dream in this thing? What to accomplish?
I want to see Providence be this world-class, big little city that's thriving and growing into the new post-pandemic economy, where there's quality, affordable housing, good job opportunities, and excellent public schools, and we can do all of those things.
Can you ease up on the speed bumps, though? My God, I can't. How do you get there from here anymore? Good luck. Congratulations.
Thanks very much.
I hope we talk often. Alrighty, final word. I don't know where we are when we come back. By the way, early voting is going on as we speak, so I don't really know how I feel about that, to be honest with you, but the old phrase is early and often. Early counts. Often, don't do that. But pay attention. These are the 2 weeks you should. We'll see you on the radio, weekdays 3 to 6 on WPRI. Bye.